Welcome to Economics 2.0. In today's explainer, we're literally upgrading our entire understanding of everyday pricing. We're going to be using some proper economics language and, mapping things out with some clear whiteboard graphs to uncover the secret math behind the cost of practically everything we buy. Let's get right into it.
So to start us off, I want you to imagine walking into your favorite coffee shop. But today, the barista hits you with some weird news. The pricing has completely changed. Instead of just paying $3 for your usual complete cup of coffee, you're now being charged $2 for the black coffee itself, an extra $1 for the creamer, and then another $1 for your sweetener. So if you just pay your usual $3, you actually have to choose. Do you want creamer or sweetener? You want both? That's an extra charge. Sounds completely absurd, right? No way that would fly. Well, okay, let's dive into this, because that totally absurd scenario is actually incredibly similar to what happened to Netflix customers back in 2011. They were suddenly hit with a massive 60% price hike just to keep the exact same service they were already getting.
Here is the actual data behind that. So in early 2011, Netflix customers were paying about $10 a month, and that package gave them both streaming video and DVD rentals. It was a sweet deal. But then in July, the 18-year-old company announced a major packaging change. To keep both your streaming and your DVDs, customers were suddenly going to be charged $15.98 a month. And they didn't even stop there. Fast forward to 2014, and Netflix raised its standard streaming video price from $7.99 to $8.99 a month. And that very same year, they also totally changed their 4K streaming policy, bumping that cost from $9 to $12 a month. So the really obvious question here becomes, how would customers react to this, right? Would they just abandon Netflix entirely? Now, at the time of that first big hike, they really didn't have many competitors. But as the streaming field grew to include 10 major competitors and literally nearly 200 smaller ones, did all that easy access to alternatives change how consumers responded?
Section 1. The Law of Demand. Economics 1.0. To really answer that question, we have to start with the baseline rules of the market.
If you've ever mapped out an economics graph on a whiteboard, you definitely know these two foundational rules. First, the law of demand, which basically states that a higher price naturally leads to a lower quantity demanded. And on the flip side, we have the law of supply, which dictates that a higher price leads to a higher quantity supplied. Pretty straightforward, right?
But here's the thing. Standard economics graphs often kind of miss the messy nuance of reality. Just knowing that the quantity demanded will drop, that really isn't enough information for a business. The ultimate question they have to answer is, how much lower will it actually be? If Netflix raises prices, are they going to lose one person or are they going to lose 1 million?
And this brilliantly illustrates our core topic for today's explainer, price elasticity of demand. In short, elasticity is the economics concept that measures the responsiveness of one variable to changes in another variable. It is the absolute engine behind Economics 2.0.
Section 2. The drop test, visualizing responsiveness. Let's figure out a way to really grasp this concept without getting bogged down in all the complex math.
Imagine you're standing on a second-floor balcony, and you're dropping two different items. The first item is a tennis ball. The second is a heavy brick. Now, which one bounces higher? The tennis ball, obviously. In pure economics language, the tennis ball has greater elasticity. It's highly responsive to the impact. The brick, on the other hand, just hits the ground with a massive thud. That represents low elasticity, or basically zero responsiveness.
Section 3. The cigarette tax dilemma. Elasticity in action. Now let's see how this whole concept plays out in the real world, specifically by looking at governments and how they handle sin taxes on things like alcohol or cigarettes.
Now, what is truly fascinating here is the massive variation in how different states actually approach this. Look at this data from 2021. State cigarette taxes ranged from a tiny little 17 cents per pack in Missouri all the way up to a staggering $4.35 per pack in places like Connecticut and New York. Meanwhile, the national average was sitting right around $1.76.
And keep in mind, that is just at the state level. The 2021 federal tax rate was an additional $1.01 per pack. To kind of show you how policymakers try to use these exact numbers, back in 2015, the Obama administration actually proposed nearly doubling that federal tax to $1.95 per pack. But here's the catch. Whenever governments attempt something like this, they absolutely have to consult the graph. They have to know how much will cigarette purchases actually decline if they raise the price. You see, these sin taxes serve two completely competing purposes. It's a real balancing act. Step 1 is simply to raise tax revenue for the government, but step 2 is to actively discourage people from consuming the product in the first place.
So this creates a really fascinating conflict that is based entirely on elasticity. Think about it. If the tax works beautifully and discourages consumption considerably, meaning we have high elasticity, just like our bouncy tennis ball, well, cigarette sales are going to plummet. But that also means the government isn't going to raise much tax revenue. On the flip side, if the product has low elasticity, like our brick, people are just going to keep buying it despite the tax. So consumption barely drops at all, but the government, they raise a ton of money.
Section 4. The secret math of pricing. The business dilemma. This Elasticity Balancing Act reaches way, way beyond just governments and taxes.
It's the secret math dictating the entire private sector, too. Every single firm out there faces this exact same pricing dilemma. When a business considers raising its prices, they have to calculate exactly how much the quantity demanded is going to fall. Conversely, when a firm puts products on sale, they're essentially making a bet. They're betting that the lower price is going to lead to a significantly higher quantity demanded, which will hopefully offset that cheaper price tag.
So, the absolutely crucial point we're taking away from all this is what I like to call the ultimate formula. A higher price combined with low elasticity, remember, that's our brick, equals massive profit for the company. But a higher price combined with high elasticity, where customers just bounce right away to your competitors like a tennis ball, that spells total disaster for a business.
Truly understanding elasticity just completely upgrades the way we look at every single transaction. So, I want to leave you with this question to kind of test your own responsiveness. Think about your life. What everyday product could literally double in price tomorrow without losing your business? When it comes to that item, are you a tennis ball? Or are you a brick? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember to always keep questioning the math behind the price tag.